Okay, thank you. And earlier this afternoon, Council met in closed session and Council rose from this meeting at 5:54 p.m. I'm calling the meeting back to order, and during the closed session, Council received an update regarding an Ontario Land Tribunal matter in Ward 1, and the following resolution will be considered an open session. And then, oh yeah, I could call that now, right. The motion that I have before me is that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre does hereby amend Middlesex Centre Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2005 number 5 and Site-Specific Bylaw 2021 number 59 as set out in the attachment number 1 and its Schedule A as requested by the municipality and approved by the Ontario Land Tribunal in case number OLT 21001233 by order on June 9th, 2023, and B, remove holding symbol H2 on 311 George Street. Could I have a mover, please, for that motion? And a second. Councillor Arts and Councillor Heffernan. All in favor? And that is carried. Now, I'm going to start with the normal opening because we were in close. So welcome to the meeting. Members of the public are invited to participate in our council meeting by accessing the live streamed content on our Middlesex YouTube channel or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting being held electronically. Members of the public may also attend the meeting in person at Coldstream Community Centre, located at 10227 Ilderton Road in Ilderton, Ontario. There are additions to the agenda tonight. Item 16.8 being a bylaw to approve the purchase and sale agreement that has been added to the agenda, along with one additional closed session matter that was noted as item 442. So I will look to members of council. Does anyone want to declare a conflict of interest? I don't see any disclosures of pecuniary interest. So just before we get to business, I did want to make a couple of remarks before we start. I'd like to take one moment to highlight and share a couple of scientific, historical, cultural facts that are germane to today. Today is the 21st of June, and from a scientific perspective, today is the longest day of the year. The exact time of the solstice was this morning at 10:58, so we've rounded the corner already now that we're here in the evening, and we're going to be counting down to the shortest day of the year, about 6 months. There's also a cultural significance to the summer solstice to many First Nations, as the longest day of the year has provided these communities an opportunity for generations and generations of Indigenous communities to celebrate their heritage and culture. June is also National Indigenous History Month in Canada and provides a special opportunity for all of us to learn about the unique cultures, traditions, and experiences of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. It was historically on this date in 2017 that the Prime Minister issued a statement announcing that today, June 21st, would be named National Indigenous Peoples Day. So there is a convergence of science, historical, and cultural variables that make June 21st a special day for all of us. As we celebrate the beginning of summer, it's an opportunity to recognize and honor the stories, the achievements, the strength and resilience of all Indigenous people who have lived on this land since time immemorial and with whom we share the land. And with that, we can now move to delegations, presentations, and right? Yes. Yeah, okay, petitions. So the first item on the agenda is our auditor, Christine Scrimmager, CPA, CA, and BA from Scrimmager and Company. She's going to provide an overview of our Middlesex Centre draft financial statements. Welcome, and the floor is yours when you're ready.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am the auditor, as was mentioned. My name is Christine Scrimmager, and I am going to present the draft financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2022. They are draft until those charged with governance, which would be council, under the Canadian audit standards, approve these financial statements, and then they will be finalized. I will go through page by page. So if we want to move forward one page there, thank you. This is your independent auditor's report. So this is where I tell you that I did not find anything materially incorrect in these financial statements and the records. And having said that, I just wanted to give thanks to the treasurer and her staff. They do an amazing job of keeping your records straight. There are very few journal entries in any given year here, and that is because your staff are on top of things, and most of the journal entries are just dealing with capital and the amortization of that capital. So, and they are dated as of today's date, which hopefully is the date that the council approves them. All right, we'll move forward to the numbers. Thank you very much. So this is your statement of financial position, your balance sheet, and I'll do the presentation the way I normally do it, but please don't hesitate to ask me any questions if this gives rise to further questions. So when I look at a set of municipal financial statements, I always look at about the two-thirds of the way down the page, and you'll see there that that is your net financial assets. So those are the assets that you will have in place at the end of the year if everyone pays you what they owe you and you pay off all your liabilities. And you can see there that you've had a significant increase from the previous year. And that would indicate a stronger financial position. Everything below that line are assets that you need to have in place in order to provide the services you do. So wastewater, water, and the roadways, and of course your buildings and other assets. And you can see, so then the next thing I look at is to ensure that you're reinvesting in capital. And in fact, you've had quite a significant increase in your capital over 2021. So if you add it, the capital works in progress as well as the tangible capital assets, and compared to this year, you've had a significant increase. And that really is after your amortization, which was almost 8 million. So you've had a significant reinvestment in capital. The next thing that I would then look at is your long-term debt to see if you're having to take out a lot of new debt in order to finance this. And in fact, you can see under the liabilities, you've paid off that capital loan, the $3 million from last year as well. There was no new capital debt in 2022 outside of just municipal drain type debt that is paid for by the ratepayers. So that's not municipal debt that comes through on the tax rate. So all of those are great indicators. And when we get to the note 9 of the financial statements, we'll see as well that your reserves and reserve funds are still in a very healthy position. So those are all great indicators. I won't spend any more time on this statement unless there's any specific questions on this balance sheet. Okay. Moving on. So this is a statement of operations and accumulated surplus, and I'll make a couple comments on this. I'll remind council that under the expenditures in the budgeted numbers, you're not budgeting the amortization. And I've commented already that amortization is about $8 million in just under $8 million in 2022. So when I look at the actual expenditures of 31 million and I compare that to 26 million budgeted, it would appear that the municipality is overspent by 5 million, but in fact it has not, because of that $8 million is in your actual calculations and it's not in your budget. And so if you took that 8 million out of your 31 million, you would in fact be underspent in 22 compared to what your budget was. There is an increase of expenditures from 2021 to 2022, and that's really, if you remember, 2021 was almost entirely a COVID year. And so obviously a lot of the recreation expenditures were not at the level that they normally would be. 2022 has returned to pretty much a post-COVID timing, although remember that the first 2 months of 2022 we were still under some significant closures. And so that 2023 will hopefully be the year that we actually return to complete post-COVID numbers. Under the revenues, I don't have a lot to say. I know you had a report on the surplus for the year, and a lot of these revenue increases. So property taxation, supplementary taxes were in that, something you cannot budget for. It's contingent on when impact gets you those calculations. And then user charges, the main increase there is due to water and wastewater, which flows through to their own surplus. So that doesn't affect the tax rate either. Investment income, as you're well aware, interest rates did go up finally, and compared to 2021. And because, and I'll talk to the capital work in progress that we just looked at on the previous statement, but because of the significant increase there and the projects not all getting finished in 2022, then you're not taking as much money out of reserves, and therefore you've got more money in the bank to earn interest. And so those two, the interest rate increase and then the projects not being completed, are the reason for the increase in the investment income. And those are really the main increases there between revenue budget and revenue actual. Everything down below that excess of revenue over expenditures before other relates to capital. And so I then look at that number. So you can see at the end of 2021, it was 7.1 million. The end of 2022, it's 7.9 million. That means that your operating revenues are covering your operating costs plus your amortization. And in fact, you've got about an $800,000 increase from the previous year. So again, a good indicator of where you are financially. The other items, as I mentioned, relate to capital, and they really are contingent on the timing of those are contingent on how far along you are in the capital projects and the completion of those. The gain on sale last year was a property that you sold, some land that you sold, and that was a one-time thing last year. So that 3.6 million, that gain loss on disposal of tangible capital assets last year, if you're wondering what that was, because it's quite a bit higher, obviously, in that year. Coming down to that accumulated surplus at the end of the year, which matches your balance sheet. Any questions on that at all? Nope. All right, I'll continue on then. So this is a statement of cash flows. This shows the increases and decreases of the non-cash items on the balance sheet. And as you can see, almost all of the larger numbers deal with the capital. So that's second number, that 7.9 million, that's the $8 million that I've been referring to as amortization. And then under investing activities, you can see both the acquisition of tangible capital assets and the increase in capital work in progress. Large increase in new capital. The next statement is just really zeroes in on the capital, and so this really shows you numbers there and significant increase in capital this year over the amortized amount. And then we get to the notes to the financial statements. I'm just going to flip forward to a note. So a couple of things. If you go to note number 4, please. Perfect, thank you. So this is, I always bring this to the council's attention because I think it's important. The operations of the school boards in the county, in addition to the revenues that are shown on these financial statements, as you can see, there's about $22 million more revenue that flows through these doors that your staff are responsible for, making sure the tax bills are received, and then the requisitions are paid over to both the county and school boards, calculating out both their subs and write-offs. And so that adds another layer of activity, obviously, to your treasury staff. Note number 7 is the deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds. And this is really, those of you who have been on council, you know that this number is coming down and coming down. So right now it's still in a bit of a negative. It's almost at a break-even point. So this is where we borrowed from DCs to get the capital projects in place that we needed to get in place. And we're almost done with that and moving forward to the positive position. And then the other two being OCIF and Parkland. You did spend all of your federal gas tax, and your safe restart money is all spent as well. So those are typically other obligatory reserve funds you'll see in place. The next note is your debt. And I think this is important for council. So again, as I mentioned, your debt is decreasing this year. You did not take out any new debt, although you had all of that new capital. And then note B really breaks down that debt repayment between that debt that is recovered from user rates, i.e. it does not show up on your tax bills, and then the amount that's actually coming from taxation. And you can see it's significantly lower than what's coming back through rates. So rates being water, wastewater, DC rates. The next note is your accumulated surplus breakdown. And so you can see this is where I mentioned about the reserve funds being and the reserves still in good position here, even though we had all that new capital. And again, had those capital projects been finalized, we would have used all the monies out of reserves that were allocated based on the budget. Because they're not completed, we only take out of reserves up to the point where they're finished. Note number 10 talks about that $3 million capital loan that I mentioned that got repaid in 2022. And then the rest of the notes, I don't really have much. They're pretty self-explanatory, unless there's any specific questions on them. I will comment on the two schedules at the back of the financial statements. This schedule here is your tangible capital assets broken down by components. And as you can see, if you add your roads, storm, your infrastructure assets, obviously the majority of your assets. So that's roads, wastewater, water, and storm. And then the last schedule is your schedule, segmented schedule. So this, once these financial statements are completed, we file an FIR with the province. The FIR is all done by what they call functions, and these are the functions. So general government, protective services, etc. And the revenues and expenditures on the face of the financial statements are broken down here between those functions, which then is the segue between these statements and the FIR that gets filed with the province. And that is my report on the numbers. I do have a couple comments, but I'm happy to take questions first.
Okay. Yeah, we have to get used to everything again. So thank you for that. I'll look to council comments, questions, observations. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Christine. First of all, it's good to see you again in person. I think I asked this question earlier. Is there anything standing out that you have any concerns with the municipality on our finances?
Thank you, through the mayor. So this was where I wanted to make a comment. So the only concern I have, can we go back up to the balance sheet? So that would be my page 3. Sorry to do this to you. There you go. So that $11 million capital work in progress, the fourth last number on that balance sheet, is a concern to me. So when capital isn't completed, a couple things don't happen. We don't, it runs into the next year's projects. And so we're trying to finish up last year's projects. In fact, we're trying to finish up some 2021 projects still, 22 projects, and now obviously you're into 2023 projects. So that puts a great deal of stress on the workload for Treasury to keep all of those projects straight, making sure they all get funded properly, as well as you cannot apply for grants until the projects are completed. In a lot of times there's holdbacks on the grants if there are grants. Although it doesn't happen a lot, but it still does happen. And then it's very difficult to budget cash flows as well for Treasury when those projects are not getting completed on a timely basis. So I would just encourage the staff to complete the projects as quickly as possible, get the projects that are started finished before we start new projects, and it just keeps everything cleaner. It eases the burden on the Treasury staff, as well as it provides you with the funding. So again, if you need to debenture something, you can't debenture until the project is finished. So that money isn't in your bank, it's out of your bank until that time. So just keeping all those things in mind, that would be my only concern. You're welcome.
Is there anyone else? I don't see anyone else. Thank you for that report, and thank you for the comments that I think will help everyone make sure that we're on the right track. I think we have a great staff, and I'm sure you've had these conversations, but thank you for making us aware of this as well. So if there isn't anything else from anyone, then I guess we'll see you next year, or at least the interim audit time. Okay, enjoy your summer. Okay, Council, we have a motion before us that the 2022 audited draft financial statements for the municipality of Middlesex Centre be adopted as printed. If I give a mover, please, and a seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, now we have another delegation. We have the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture, Mr. Patrick Berkeley, and Jason O'Neill from the MFA is here. Oh no, just one. That's okay. I just want to make sure I introduce you properly. Welcome. And when you're ready, I'll turn mine off and you can get going.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Patrick Berkeley. I'm the Vice President of Middlesex Federation of Agriculture. Jason O'Neill was supposed to be here, and then he called and said he has like 5 hours left of bale barrening. So I guess you make hay when the sun shines. So we at the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture thought that well, way back in the day prior to COVID, we did delegations to county councils to let you know that we're here and try and, you know that we're a resource for you guys. And obviously the last couple of years we weren't able to do that, but now we've got you're relatively new into your council term. So we've been going around to various councils to just let you know that we're here. So Middlesex, we have about 1,900 members in Middlesex County. So we're one of the larger jurisdictions in the province as far as that goes. Couple of things that we've been doing at Middlesex Federation, we sort of view our role as to be an advocate for agriculture and also be a resource to sort of help our broader community know what happens in agriculture, how we contribute, and what goes on. So a couple of things we've been doing is we've been supporting the Food for the Future radio show that Mickey O'Neill hosts in London, and I've been on that. Jason O'Neill has been on that. Our OFA director, Crispin Colvin's been on there. Our past president, Dave Bolton. We've also worked together with a bunch of the other counties and put some money in when the OFA matched us in a donation of $50,000 towards the Children's Museum and their ag display section that's going on there. Eventually we will get them up, but we have a whole bunch of crop identification signs that we're looking to be putting up around the county. So it's a sign that say like winter wheat or corn or soybeans, something that when you're driving through the countryside, you actually, get an idea of what crops are growing there and what the end uses will be for those. We also every year put out 3 scholarships for local Middlesex students that are looking to do post-secondary work or take post-secondary education that's going to help benefit Middlesex agriculture in some way. So if they're going to go to Ridgetown or Guelph, or maybe they want to go off and we've supported people that wanted to take a humanities study, but was, end goal of working in mental health to help agriculture. So as long as, they can show with us that what they're wanting to go study in post-secondary school will help our local community and grow in the future, that's sort of what we've been looking at. So we usually award those July, August. So that's coming up. Interestingly, I think another thing that I want to just highlight is that the OFA that we're affiliated with, has a lot of policy research staff that's there to help. And I think that, in terms of how we can all work together, I'm guessing you guys have heard of Bill 97. Yeah. I think that was an interesting case where the fact that we had such a diversity of voices saying the same thing to the provincial government helped make them review at least some parts of that bill. And I think that's an opportunity for us all to work together and try and figure out, what messages are going to help everyone. I think, if it's just one organization going to government saying we want this or we see a problem with this, it's one thing. But if you have a sort of uniform voice coming from all aspects of places, I think that's really powerful. And we at Middlesex Federation of Agriculture are happy to try and be a partner in some of those types of things. That's sort of the general spiel, but I'd love to open it up for any questions you guys might have.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I'll look to council then for questions. Councillor Heffernan.
Through the mayor too, Steve, I just want to echo what you just said about Bill 97. I'm very glad that all the agricultural community came together and sent that in. We got some changes made. Thanks very much.
Councillor Burrs.
Hi, I'm just at the sheet that you gave, agriculture at a glance. So our farms are getting bigger, obviously. There's fewer of them and they're bigger. What about the acres of farmland? Are they going down year over year? Are we sort of sustaining ourselves?
We are definitely seeing a general decrease in the acres of farmland in the province. The OFA has been saying that 319 acres a day is lost to urban development in Ontario. And that's a number that's taken from, I believe it was the census or so, that looked at, basically, anyway, it's been 300, statistically it's 319 acres a day and maybe more now. And so we are definitely losing the space to grow food. I think as much as I'd say we are seeing increasing yields due to more intensive and getting better at growing food, but there's a limitation to how much we can continue to grow that.
Anyone else? I don't see any hands. So I'd like to thank you for taking time out this evening to give us an update on what's happening here in the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture and the work that you're doing for advocacy, as well as education and promoting farm enterprises and programming. So keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to your next update. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have to push my button again. Okay, we can now move to the adoption of the minutes. The minutes of the 7th, the motion before us is that those minutes of June 7th, 2023 of council be adopted as printed. We could have a mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Heffernan, Councillor Arts, all in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on now to the consent agenda. There are 5 items here. Are there comments, questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge our treasurer for the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for 2023. I think this is the second year in a row now that her department has achieved this. So I'd just like to say congratulations to you and keep up the good work.
Is there anything you want to add, Tiffany, about that, or any comment you'd like to make?
So through your Mayor DeVete, no, just a big thank you. The team and works really hard at this, and it's also a thank you to the budget committee, the budget working group, which has members of council on that as well, while developing that entire budget and the process. And then finally the booklet. And the one comment that I would like to say is I will be speaking about this at our MFOA conference, which is for the finance professionals and municipalities this fall, as it is something that I'm very passionate about, especially having that standard within municipalities of what we're providing to our residents, because it is one taxpayer. And it's something actually Councillor Shipley that had kind of sat with me from last year when he had called to just ask a couple questions about the budget and had made a comment on a resident within his ward had reached out. I didn't recognize the name of the resident and had just commented on how easy it was to read, and he was able to get the information he was looking for. And just hearing comments like that is exactly what why we do it, is that any member of the public can read those budget documents. I do find that when you're looking at financial statements, it is a standard. It is a technical document. I don't imagine that every member of the public can read the financial statements and fully grasp what's happening within it. It goes from cash-based budget to an accrual-based financial statements. It is very difficult. However, the budget is for the taxpayer, and it should be easy to read and easy to understand. And that's what this award is saying. So whether it's an award or just a standard, it's something that Middlesex Center and we are all proud to achieve, so that our residents get this nice document that they can actually understand, which is the whole point. So thank you. And thank you for the appreciation. Our team definitely worked really hard for this and deserved that. And that was great. Thanks.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'll just add that This is the second year, and I think the expression sweating bullets comes to mind. Your attention to detail and your thoughtfulness in approaching this project is to be commended. If you have not looked at it, anyone online or anyone here in the room here publicly tonight, take a look at it, because if you don't like a round graph, there are words, and if you don't like words, there's a bar graph or a line chart, and the message gets through to everyone and it's clear. And I think the more the public understands about how their money is spent, and how it makes everyone's job easier, including everyone here around the horseshoe when it comes to answering questions. And it also gives them a record of what's been spent on what and why, and what the costs of certain services are. So I think it's a win-win for everyone. So thanks for raising that, Deputy. And is there, Councillor Burrs, go ahead.
Okay, you turn it off. Yeah, just at least 4 or 5 people have commented that they like the budget the way it's presented, and especially the fact that we outline the various departments. Like there's actual that we're aging as a population group, trying to do this or that. So they really like that stuff. The other thing is this award is for all of North America. So that's a big thing, I think. Just wanted to recognize that. That's it.
Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Shipley.
I can through the mayor to Rob, and Rob, this may be a tough question to answer, but the tenders have gone out. There's a lot of range variance here on those 3 tenders. Like Valley Swim Pond is $221,000 range, Risen Drain 118, but odds back closure $538,000 difference from the lowest and the highest tender. Any explanation what's going on there?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Shipley. Yeah, I can't give a great explanation, right? We always expect to see some level of variation, but we were honestly surprised at the extent of the variation in some of these bids. Sometimes you get an outlier. I have heard from a couple of people that there's, with some of the industry slowdown, that there's a lot of bidders. There's some people that might be hungry for work out there, which may be some of the reason that we saw some bids considerably lower than some of the others. That's really my best guess, right? So.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other items that you'd like clarified? I don't see any hands. So the motion before us is that consent items 7.1 through 7.5 listed on the June 21st, 23 agenda be adopted as recommended. If I could have a mover, please, and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Brenner, Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to staff reports. The first item is yours. Tiffany, Director of Corporate Services, is going to provide an overview of the budget process 2024. We're starting right in again.
Yeah. So through you, Mayor DeVete. So at this time, it's just a quick council report with respect to our 2024 budget process. Each year it looks a little bit the same and a little bit different, which is exciting. So within this budget process, I'm now that we have our council in place, we can take that step and actually have 2 members of council join that budget working group. At this time, I have spoken with Councillor Burrs and Councillor Cates, who are both would be new to the budget process for this term. So that would be the 2 council members that should council vote on that would be included in this process. The process does start off right away this summer. In July, we'll be kicking off with our budget survey. So we're hoping to hear from the residents on what they would like to see within their budget. It's always a great opportunity to have your voices heard. And then we'll be coming to council with our Budget 101 presentation. We are amping up a little bit more internal training, as our auditor has mentioned, with respect to capital. We will have some internal training for all of those creating the budget to ensure that we're budgeting as accurately as possible. So that'll be happening more probably summer, fall. And then we're looking at bringing this back to council for presentations after the budget committee works through it in September, October, and November, for presentations in November for our capital, December for our operating, and then the December 20th meeting for passing of the budget bylaws at council's direction. So we will see how that goes. Once again, I always like to remind everyone that when we're looking at our budget, it is only for Middlesex Center. We are not looking at the county budget or the school rates, education taxes, because we do not have that information until sometime into 2024. And at this point, if there's any questions on the budget process, I can open the floor.
Thank you. I'll look to council. Questions for Tiffany on the budget process? I don't see any. Glad to see Councillor Cates and Burrs are taking their turn at this. And I should note that this is a very open and transparent process. People are no giggling about finance. This is an open and transparent process, so people are able to join in and take part. As Tiffany said, there are going to be surveys, and so take part, make sure your voice is heard, and it just makes for a better budget. All right, moving on, we have a motion here before us that report CPS 32 for 2023 regarding the 2024 budget process be received, and that Councillor Cates and Councillor Burrs be appointed to the budget working group for the 2024 budget and join municipal staff during the budget discussions during September, October, and November 2023. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Shipley and Councillor Heffernan. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, 8.2 is an application for a zoning bylaw amendment, and we're going to look to Marion Cabral, the county planner, who is in attendance to provide an overview of the staff report. Hi, Marion. When you're ready, go ahead.
Great, and good evening to you and to council. The purpose of my staff report is to provide a recommendation to council with regard to a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands on Middlesex Drive. These lands are located just south of Glendon Drive and east of Jeffreys Road in Kilworth. So this zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the lands to a new site-specific urban residential third density zone in order to permit medium density development, as well as to address some of the site-specific zoning standards. This application was before council previously in 2020, 2021, and as well earlier this year, as we did ask the applicant to put a pause on their applications as the municipality was undertaking the official plan review. So in the meantime, the applicant had resubmitted a conceptual plan, which is attached to my staff report. It shows 64 dwelling units on a 1 hectare parcel of land and one single access off of Dulcet Drive. So previously, staff did recommend deferral of this amendment application to confirm the visitor parking rate, the proposed tenure of the future development, as well as just confirm and solidify the site-specific standards to account for some of the comments that we received from the public. As such, staff recommend approving the site-specific standards within the zoning bylaw, specifically a minimum lot area of 1 hectare, minimum lot frontage of 9.8 meters, maximum height of 14 meters, minimum side yard setback of 8 meters when abutting existing residential units and 6 meters in other cases, a minimum side yard setback of 5.8 meters when abutting a commercial zone, and then a rear yard setback of 8 meters when it's abutting Glendon Drive. Further visitor parking spaces will be required in addition to the standard parking rates for residents. And this parking rate would be a minimum of 0.1 parking spaces per unit, and they would need to be provided all on site. The maximum density is 60 units per hectare. Further, we included provisions that garages attached to the dwelling units cannot be located closer to the lot line than the habitable portion of the dwelling that it's attached to. And then with regard to the tenure, the applicant had confirmed that they had not determined if future development would be in the form of a lease or a condominium development. And as we've seen recently, Middlesex Center's zoning bylaw contains certain provisions where certain condominium developments are treated differently when applying the zoning bylaw. As such, there is a special provision that's recommended in the zoning bylaw to consider the whole of the lands as a lot, regardless of the tenure or any severance. And then finally, staff recommend placing 3 holding symbols on the land. So an H2, H3, and H7. And this would require the applicant to enter into site plan agreement with the municipality to undertake a noise study in relation to the noise from Glendon Drive, as well as prepare an urban design brief. So as a result of the comments from the public and from council, staff are in a position to recommend approval of the zoning bylaw amendment application as amended, as this proposal is consistent with the PPS, county, and Middlesex Center official plan. And this opinion is provided with the benefit of receiving all comments from area residents and from the public. Should any new information arise, council is advised to take these into consideration. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Before we go to questions, Casey Kolchak is in attendance on behalf of the applicant to comment on the application. Would you like to make any comments?
Good evening.
Hi there. If you'd like
Hi.
to comment, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Casey Kolchicki. I'm a senior planner with Zelenka Priam Limited, representing the applicant on this file. I'd just like to take a moment to thank Marianne for all of her work on this project. I know it's been before council several times through the official plan amendment process and now the zoning bylaw amendment process. So we thank Marianne for all of her hard work on this file. We've had a chance to review the staff report prepared by Marianne, and we are in agreement with the recommendation for approval with the holding provisions. And I'm simply here to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Kolchicki. I'll look to council then. Are there questions, comments? Go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor, the justification report, you still haven't corrected the error on the last time. In it, you say 44 unit stacked townhouses, and I believe it's 48. So I was going to make that. And I was talking to Marion, and when we approved this, it's my understanding that this development will have enough parking for all of there'll be no off-site parking. I just want to make that understood, that is my interpretation.
Through you, Mayor DeVete, that is correct. We are not seeking any special provision with regards to parking reductions on this site. So any site plan that brought forward will have to comply with the zoning bylaw, parking regulations for the tenure of housing being proposed, in addition to the visitor parking that is being added to the zoning for one space for every 10 units. So there's no additional parking reduction being sought. So we will have to comply at the site plan stage.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Brennan.
To you, Madam Mayor, to Marion. I realize this application is moving along, but after a report we got yesterday at the county showing that the county is lacking in falling behind in industrial commercial lands throughout the county. And now here we are switching commercial land to residential. I'm starting to have concerns doing this, especially when our municipality is trying to encourage more industrial commercial land. The county is lacking in its percentages of industrial commercial land. So I guess I'm getting more disappointed with seeing these lands being switched to residential lands from commercial. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Councillor Heffernan.
Through the mayor to Casey, I guess, just a comment. I think it's been mentioned before by the abutting development people that they would like things to be compatible, that this is perhaps incompatible with their units. So I'm sort of thinking that this would be a really good option to make this development compatible by a couple of things. And one of them is I have seen some developments, stacked townhouses in parts of London, and I hate to say this, but they actually look like chicken barns. And so I think if we're going to have increased density, then we have to make it look like these are homes for people. And I refer to the planning justification report. There's a couple of spots in there where it mentions that as part of the community, you're facilitating the development of lower and moderate income housing choices. And again, I think that's great because I think we need some housing that is appropriate for the 40 to $60,000 income earners that have good jobs, but they don't have any place to live because rents are way too high. So I'm hoping that this will come to fruition and that you will actually make some reasonable choices for this development. Thank you.
Councillor Cates and then Councillor Bird.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to comment on Debbie's comment, I think that when you refer to the development next door, their comments, I think that they have already changed the design to take care of those. Yeah, thanks.
So just a comment, I know this property, Councilor Cates knows this property. It would never be industrial. It might be commercial, but it isn't really a great commercial space because it isn't in the open where people can see it. So personally, I don't think that's the place to draw the line, insisting that it remains commercial. Further comments on this, like I don't mind this. It looks like it's shoehorned in. There's been a lot of comments from the public on this. And, you know, there's a condo development right next door. I'm presuming, Marion, that you've looked at all those comments, taken them into consideration, and yet you've come up with your recommendation. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's it.
Is there anyone else? I'll just turn to Mr. Kolchicki. Is there anything you'd like to add based on what you've heard or any comment you'd like to make? If so, you feel free to comment.
I have nothing to add at this moment. I guess I'll just say, like, as we bring this application to the next stage, being the site plan approval process, Marion, you can confirm, I believe this will return to council for a public site plan meeting where building elevations and the nature of the compatibility issue can be further refined through that process.
Okay, thank you. Marion?
Just to clarify, there's no public site plan process for this one, so it would just be through the site plan process that we typically undertake on a staff level.
Okay, I think everyone's had a chance to ask, be answered, and comment. So we do have a motion before us. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah, through the chair. Thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. So, hi, Marion, hi, Casey, and everyone. I just wanted to provide a comment on something that I heard tonight, which I think is actually very important to a municipal review of these types of applications. So, if everyone recalls, Bill 109 had changes to the Planning Act specific to Section 41 being site plan control. Municipalities, upper tier level of government authorities can no longer control the aesthetic appearance of a building from the exterior design. We still look at urban design from the perspective of a building and its relationship to surrounding development, but we can't actually require them to build a certain way or a certain look on a building. Obviously, municipal staff, county staff, as well as developers, consultants, we do our best to try and produce an attractive product at the end of the day. I think everyone wants to see an attractive product. It just makes it easier saleability for the developer as well. But I just wanted to provide that clarification. It is a fine line. We work with them to integrate developments within our community, but technically we cannot require them to do anything to the exterior through certain types of architectural controls.
Thank you for that comment, and you're right about the changes. It's one of the good things about this job. Things change and you keep on learning. So thanks for that educational input. There's nothing else then. Did I read the motion? Yeah. That's where we are. I wasn't sure if I read it yet though. Okay, so the zoning bylaw amendment applications, that'd be A09-2020 as amended, filed by Zelenka Priamo on behalf of 756949 Ontario Limited to rezone the land from Highway Commercial Exception 9, that is C2-9, to site-specific urban residential density exception 27 in the zone be approved. If I could have a mover, please, for that motion, and a second. Councillor Cates and Councillor Bruce, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And we can now go to the next item, which is consent application B10 2023 for 147279 9 Mile Road. The file is Dan's, so I'll turn the floor over to you to present that file.
So through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. So item 8.3, as mentioned, is consent file B10 2023. This did come before council on May 17th, where it was referred back to staff. And the concern there was being the resulting size of the surplus dwelling lot as interpreted by council. So the applicant did originally request a lot size of 1.5 acres as provided in their application. I did attend the property with both the owners and existing residents and did a walk around. We looked at where the proposed property lines were, made suggestions as to where they potentially could go. I did receive a revised proposal from them, which does include a reduction of basically the rear of the property was or is conceptually designed to come in slightly from where it was, still capturing the existing septic system as well. And then the desire of the residents there is to maintain one of the existing accessory buildings, if not both, if possible, which are on the west side of the property. So they have conversely shrunken the other corresponding side of the property in to help bring that size of the lot down. And this would ensure that the municipal drain does stay wholly on the agricultural parcel, which is one of the concerns that we did hear from the Conservation Authority. So with that said, I have reviewed the proposal and my recommendation does remain consistent. And that is that the application be approved, subject to the conditions that were outlined in the planning report. Thank you, and I can answer any questions that you may have. I do note that the applicant did wish to speak if they could tonight, so I'm just making the council aware of that as well.
Yes, thank you for that report. And I do have on the list that the applicants, Mr. and Mrs. Vandenberg, are in attendance and would like to comment. The floor is yours when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and members of council. As Dan mentioned, we have submitted a new plan, which shows the lot size substantially smaller. We veered away from the creek, which was always like a natural barrier. That's why we used that the first time. The reason indeed that it's hard to stay under the 1 acre is that on the west side of the laneway is a car garage, which the previous owners, which are also going to be like this farm family, has been on this farm for generations. They are also buying back the house and stay on the severed lot on the property. So they would really appreciate to be having access to their garage, not only the garage building itself, but also the laneway to get in there. So if there are any questions about that.
Thank you. We have to play the push button game here. Okay, so we have now the applicant and the report. I'll look to council for questions, comments, input. Councillor Cates, you'll start.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. So I do have a couple of questions, maybe more curiosity, but so first of all, the overhead view here on the report, that's the new boundary, correct? Okay, yes, he says, thank you. So if you Google this address and like you're driving down the road, I'm just curious, the file says 14727 9 Mile. But when this actually has, and you've answered one of my questions with the driveway into the garage, but I see a 14727, 14729, 14737. There's something mentioned about a triplex at 14771. So I'm just wondering, is this lot severed off? Is it a collection of houses?
So through the chair to Councillor Cates, so the existing dwelling is actually a triplex. So there's 3 units within the existing structure, which for all intents and purposes, as far as we know, is legal non-conforming. It is legal to have additional municipal addresses assigned to the same property. Not common, but it is legal.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I wasn't sure if it was even just for fire or something for back to the garage or, thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Shipley, go ahead.
Through the mayor to Dan, I guess the only concern I got here, Dan, is on the east side, that will be returned back to farmland. But like, who's gonna farm that? Like, I mean, it's such a small parcel. I just don't think we're gaining anything here. Like personally, I'd like to see it come off the west side. They took all the trees down there years ago. And I thought that was kind of the plan at one point, to take all those trees down and move that in. I'd kind of like to see the land put to the west side and take it off there, square the property off. So I guess the question is, can we move that to that side and take the west side off? Or move the garage to the system, yeah.
So through the chair to Councillor Shipley, it's up to council's purview to decide whether or not they agree with the proposal, or whether or not they'd like to make a recommendation or a motion to amend that consent application or approval.
Did you want to make a motion, or shall I ask councillors, other councillors to speak, and then we'll come back? I'm just going to get council to jump in on, well, no. Okay, I'm right. Council will speak now. There's the step process here, and that was the chance for the presenters to present. Council has the opportunity now. So go ahead, Councillor Cates, the floor is yours. Sorry.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, just a comment to Councillor Shipley's. I don't see any reason to change the shed and the driveway and all of that stuff that's there. I think, like Dan said, they shortened it up off the back, that we've got it from 1.5 down to 1.1. I think that's sufficient as far as moving a garage, relocating a laneway. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the planners recommended it. They've been here before. They've changed it. This is what they want. I don't have a problem with it.
Anyone else? Well, just as a historical comment, the position of council has been maximum 1 acre. We have removed wells, we have removed buildings, we have removed barns, we have removed electricity. It is council's decision. It's a planning decision, and I'm just putting that out there. If I see Dan wants to come.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, I was kind of thinking of this further. What I would say is that, at least if you're looking at it, the west side of the property, but depending on which way you're looking at it, the side that they have shortened up next to the municipal drain is a lower lying section. It does drop towards the creek. So I don't know how developable that would be to someone to establish something like a garage. I don't even know if they could, based on proximity to that existing drain. So it could be challenging if you did switch the side or pushed it over that way, as opposed to where the existing garage is right now. I don't actually know if they could build a garage on that particular side, just given that the Conservation Authority may say no based on the elevation of that side of the property dropping down towards the drain. I just wanted to provide that information to council just because I was on site and know Councilor Shipley, you've seen that site as well. It does kind of drop towards that side, so just food for thought.
I'll go back to Councillor Shipley now to give direction if he chooses, or comment or clarify.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think they have sized it down. Like I said, I'd still like it to the west side, but there is going to be a lot more work. And if they can't, like as Dan spoke, or to the east side, it may be hard to put a garage over on that side. So my concern was that the east side is not going to be farmable at all. Just the size of it. That's basically what my comment was. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If everyone's had the chance to say what they'd like, then we do have a motion before us. And the motion is that consent application B10 2023 filed by 1879517 Ontario Limited in order to sever a residence surplus to a farm operation as a result of consolidation on a lot with a frontage of approximately 84.3 meters on 9 Mile Road and an area of approximately 1.1 acres from a lot municipally known as 14727 9 Mile Road be granted, and that the consent B10 2023 be subject to the 12 conditions that are noted in the staff report, and further that the reasons for granting consent application B10 2023 include: the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, the proposal conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre official plan, and subject to the conditions, the proposal would comply with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw. Do I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates, Councillor Shipley, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All righty, next up, we'll have to move into the Committee of Adjustment. And we have a motion before us that Council adjourn its regular meeting at 6:58 p.m. in order to sit as a Committee of Adjustment under Section 45 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended to consider minor variance applications listed on the June 21st, 2023 agenda. So I have a bit of a preamble and ordering here of things we have to do. So first of all, members of the public that wish to receive further notification on any minor variance applications that are being considered today, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have questions on any of the applications that are being heard today, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our R-zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. There is an order of proceedings, and that is, first of all, I will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present the staff report. Then the applicant or their agent has the opportunity to speak to their application. Then the members of the public who have registered to speak or who are in attendance will be asked for their comments. Please state your name so that it can be noted in the meeting minutes. Then the municipal clerk or planner will note additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. Then I'll turn to the committee, who may then ask questions of the applicant and or staff. And then finally, I'll ask for council to consider motions regarding the applications. And that procedure will be for each of these, the next group of applications. The first one is an application for minor variance. And Dan, this is file 811-2023. The floor is yours.
So through the chair, thank you, members of the committee. So application for minor variance, item 9.1 on the agenda is A11-2023. It's for 106 Daventry Way. So the purpose and effect of the application is to seek relief from the zoning bylaw as it does relate to the minimum rear yard setback for a deck, which is located in the urban residential first density exception 36 zone. So the applicant is proposing to construct a deck off the existing dwelling on the rear. with a minimum rear yard setback of 5.48 meters. Whereas the bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 6.5 meters, which takes into consideration the permitted encroachments section of the bylaw. So the subject property is designated residential in the Middlesex Center's official plan, and it does permit residential uses, including uses that are accessory to the residence. In this case, that would be a deck. The subject property is located in the Kilworth Heights West subdivision. It contains an existing single detached dwelling, and it is municipally serviced. Generally, it's surrounded by low density development in the format of single detached homes on all sides. I've reviewed the proposed variance against the Planning Act tests, and through the review, I am satisfied that the proposed variance does meet the tests, and I do recommend approval of the minor variance. So thank you, and I'm welcome any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you for that overview. And we do have the applicant, Danielle Brown, is in attendance on behalf of the file to comment on the application.
Thank
you-
you, Madam Mayor.
Hi,
Oh, sorry.
we can hear you if you'd like to make your comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I am here and available if anyone had any questions in regards to my application.
We're good to go, right? Okay, thank you. It's really hard to hear right now. The fan is on. So I'm going to now turn to the public. Is there's anyone here who'd like to speak to this? No, okay. And we have nothing from the clerk. So I'll look to members of committee. Is there anything anyone would like to ask? I see shaking heads. In that case, we have a motion before us. That minor variance application A11 2023 filed by Danielle Brown for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a minimum rear yard setback for an additional deck of 5.48 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback of 6.5 meters for a property municipally known as 106 Daventry Way be granted, subject to the following conditions: that the minimum rear yard setback shall reduce to 5.48 meters, only apply to the deck as shown on the attached drawing, and the remainder of the single detached dwelling shall maintain a minimum 8.0 meter setback as shown on the site plan. And further, that the reasons for granting the minor variance application 11/2023 is that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of the Middlesex Centre official plan and comprehensive zoning bylaw. It is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Do I have a mover, please, and a second? Councillor Cates, Councillor Burrs, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, thank you for that. And we can move now to public meetings. And we have a motion before us that the Committee of Adjustment adjourn at 7:04 and Council resume the regular meeting, and that Council move into public meetings at 7:05 pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, to consider applications listed on the June 21, 2023 Council agenda. Do we have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan, Councillor Arts, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, I can skip it. Yeah, the order that I just read for the previous file is exactly the same for this one. I'll call you up or ask so you won't have to remember what it is. So the first item that we have to deal with is the consent application B11 2023 for 14875 Ilderton Road. And that file is Dan's. I'll look to you for the report.
Through the chair, thanks, Mayor and members of council. So item 10.1 is a consent application to sever a surplus dwelling, which is listed as B11 2023, and it's for 14875 Ilderton Road. So the purpose and effect of the consent application, again, is to sever a residence which has been deemed surplus to a farm operation consolidation. The severed lands are proposed by the applicant to have a frontage of approximately 100 meters on Ilderton Road and an overall area of 1.36 acres. The balance of the farmland would maintain an overall area of approximately 103 acres. The subject property is located on the southeast corner of the intersection at County Road 16 and 41. It currently contains an existing dwelling, an accessory structure, and lands used for crop production. The subject lands are designated agricultural area in the county official plan, as well as agricultural in Middlesex Center's official plan. And it's zoned agricultural A1 in Middlesex Center's zoning bylaw. So upon review of the application, I am satisfied that the subject property is considered a surplus dwelling as a result of the consolidation. As proposed, the size of the severed lot is considered to be in excess of what could be interpreted as a minimum amount required under the provincial planning statement, which notes the size of the lands shall be limited to the size necessary to accommodate the residential use and associated private services. So as such, planning staff are recommending as a condition, and being condition number 3, to limit the size of the proposed surplus dwelling severance to 1 acre. So aside from the size, I am satisfied that the criteria of the severance of the surplus farm residents as proposed have been met or are appropriately addressed through conditions of the consent. So given the above, I am recommending that the subject application be approved, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the planning report. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. And I'll look to the applicant or their agent if they'd like to speak to this. Oh, Courtney's up there. Right. Okay, Courtney, the floor is yours if you'd like to make some comments.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. My name is Courtney Sinclair, and I'm here on behalf of the Robson Partnership. I believe that Joel and Jay Robson are also in attendance, so if you have any specific questions for them that might be better suited for them, they are open to answering those. If I may, I would just like to provide comments on a couple of conditions, and also if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer those. I'll start with condition number 3, that the size of the resultant severance be limited to approximately 1 acre. In this instance, we're asking for approximately a 1.36 acre lot. In this case, it's a bit of a personal situation. The Robson Partnership owns this lot, but after the severance, they are going to be selling it back to the people that have been living in this residence for quite some time. This residence has historically, or the severed parcel has historically been a residential parcel. And as part of that residential use, they've used that shed on the east side of the severed parcel. Ideally, they would like to keep that together with the house because that has been, as I stated, they've used that as part and parcel with the residential parcel. So ideally, we would like to keep that lot at 1.36 acres to include that. As well, if I may, and Joel and Jay, like I said, may have something to add to that, but I would also like to address condition 16. That condition has to do with the road widening. And this particular parcel, the retained land abuts 2 roads. So we have Adelaide and Ilderton Road. As proposed, the Robsons have calculated that the road widening will take out of commission approximately 2.2 acres of agricultural land that is currently in crop production. We request that this condition be amended so that the road widening only applies to the severed parcel and not to the retained parcel, so that those agricultural lands may stay in production in the spirit of the official plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. I'll look to the public now for any comments that they would like to make, or no, nobody here to speak to it. Okay. In that case, Council, you're next. If there's anything here that you'd like to ask, or yes, I'll start with you, Deputy Mayor.
You, Madam Mayor, to the Robsons that are in attendance. As far as the dedication requirement of the roads, that's a county policy on these county roads. Pretty steadfast. If you want to get this approved to go through the county, it's going to have to be that way. Doesn't mean you can't farm that land. it's highly unlikely anything's gonna happen to it for a while anyway, so it can still be farmed. The 1 acre thing, we're getting pretty strict on that. If we go to 1.3, then the next application comes in and he wants 1.45 or 1.5, and it just keeps expanding. So if there is an opportunity to reduce this to 1 acre, I think we're gonna be fairly steadfast and ask that requirement be accomplished for us. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? I'll echo the deputy mayor's comments then too. We've always stuck to maximum 1. If there's absolutely, I mean, a well or something is there. We've actually had amenities moved. This is a lot that looks like it can easily accommodate that adjustment. So I would support your motion, deputy. If there's nothing else, then, oh, is there anyone else? Sorry, last chance? Oh, yes. Okay, go ahead, Council.
Yeah, we have that's just a rule of thumb, the 1 acre, or are we steadfast on it? Because we already approved one that's over 1 acre tonight. Yeah, so, yeah, and then how much bigger does it keep getting is the question. I guess it's a matter of, I'm just looking for a way to look at it. And in this case, if it's doable, stick to 1 acre is what you're saying, Deputy Mayor? Okay.
Councillor Cates?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just as a comment, I haven't verified it exactly, but I have written here in my notes, one we're gonna come up to in a couple down, 10.3, I think it's 1.63 acres, so not that it's approved or anything, but just, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. In fact, when we talked about the maximum, it could be a half. We've had properties, well, we have people that come with properties that are that size. All we have to do is make sure that the sanitary piece is accommodated and that we, yeah, I don't know, it's called scope creep in other jurisdictions. And to the extent that we keep moving on this, it's, yeah, we get requests, respect our farmland, make sure that this happens, make sure that this happens. And we've got a policy in place that we've been trying to follow. I don't know, there have been a few probably that, yeah. In any case, it's up to council. So we do have a motion before us. Does anybody, Dan, can you just clarify, when we say your point number 3 covers that off? To the extent that it's in there, that is what we're asking, just to be clear.
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. So I intentionally didn't include a size in the recommendation with the intention that the condition number 3 would limit the size to 1 acre. So that would cover it off, that the maximum size for any resulting lot through the future survey would be 1 acre.
Okay, so everyone's clear on what the wording is and what we're asked to vote on. We do have the wording here that consent application B11 2023 filed by Robson Brother Partnership in order to sever a residence surplus to a farm operation as a result of consolidation from lot municipally known as 14875 Ilderton Road be granted, subject to the conditions that consent B11 2023 be subject to the 16 conditions noted in the report. And further, that the reasons for granting consent application B11 2023 include: it is consistent with the provincial policy statement. The proposal conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre official plan. And subject to the conditions, the proposal would comply with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw. Do we have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Arts, Deputy Mayor Brennan, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay, Dan, the next item, number 12, 2023.
So through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. So item 10.2 on the agenda is a consent file B12-2023, and it's for 12626 Ilderton Road. So the purpose and effect of the consent application is to sever a residence that's surplus to a farm operation as a result of a consolidation. The severed lands are proposed by the applicant to have a frontage of approximately 85 meters on Ilderton Road and an area of 1.99 acres. The balance of farmland would maintain an overall area of approximately 48 acres. It's an existing 50-acre parcel. The subject property is located on the north side of Ilderton Road, west of Denfield Road. It currently contains an existing dwelling, an accessory structure, as well as lands that are used for crop production. The subject lands are designated agricultural area in both the county official plan and Middlesex Center's official plan, and they are zoned the agricultural A1 zone in the bylaw. So upon review of the application, similar to the last, I am satisfied that the subject property is considered a surplus dwelling as a result of a consolidation. However, as proposed, the size of the severed lot is again considered to be in excess of what could be interpreted as the minimum amount required under the provincial planning or policy statement, which does indicate that the size of the land should be limited to the size necessary to accommodate the residential use, as well as the associated private services. So as such, planning staff are recommending, similarly in this case, a condition, which again is condition number 3 of the planning report, which limits the size of the proposed lot to 1 acre. So aside from the size, I am satisfied that the criteria for severance from the surplus farm residence as proposed have been met or could be addressed through conditions of consent. So given the above, I am recommending approval of the application, subject to the conditions that are listed in the report. I would also note that similar to really what Deputy Mayor indicated on the last report, the road dedication requirement is a requirement of the county engineer as it is a county road. This is something that we were required to take and are allowed to take under the Planning Act. Just for clarification to the applicant, even though the land gets dedicated to the county, it's still actually encouraged to be farmed through the county. We don't want the land to go to waste. We don't need it to just be a ditch. It's still used for farmland. So I just wanted to indicate that to everyone, that that's the understanding, is that it will still be farmed even though ownership transfers to the county. Same as every farm along the road. So thank you.
And thank you for that clarification. I will now look to Ms. Sinclair to add any comments or present any points that you'd like to do.
Thank you again. In this instance, I think it's really important to look at the severance sketch and see the property as a whole. I assume that council has that in front of them. If you'd like, I can share my screen, assuming you can see me as well. So in this context, you could see it's a perfectly square lot. It captures the house, the septic to the west of the house, and a garage that is used with the house. As you were informed by Dan, it is 1.99 acres, the proposed severance. It is our opinion that this is necessary in order to accommodate the septic and to keep that lot in a reasonable looking shape. I note also, I appreciate and respect that the goal is to keep every surplus farm dwelling severance to within an acre. However, sometimes, and I think it's applicable in this situation, it doesn't really make sense. In order to accommodate the septic in this situation, it makes sense to go along the natural lot lines. We're not taking any agricultural lands out of production by allowing this severance at 1.99 acres. And the other thing to note is that this policy is not yet reflected in the official plan. I understand that there is some amendments that are on the table. However, as of now, it hasn't been implemented. So we ask that council look at the map, see the logical placement of the lot lines in this situation, and approve a lot that is bigger than 1 acre rather than accepting condition number 3.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. We don't have any of the other categories here to speak, so I'm going to now look to, oh, does the applicant want to say anything about that one? No. Okay, so council comments, questions? Councillor Burrs, go ahead.
Have discussion on this then, because it's a 2 acres. Is it an acceptable exception because you keep everything together, or Dan has recommended this with at 1 acre? Okay.
I'm prepared to accept the planner's recommendation.
Is there anyone else? Councillor Arts?
Through your Madam Mayor to the Robson brothers. I know this seems harsh, but we've got to the point where we start giving here and they start taking more every time. So we start setting precedents. We just keep getting the buttons pushed, and I quite honest, this one I feel bad for you, but I'm not going to change my mind.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Yes, Councillor Shipley.
Through the mayor to Dan, excuse me, the yellow section, I'm assuming that's the complete tile bed and tank include, or do you know?
To the chair, sorry, I'm having internet issues. Yeah, so I'll defer to the applicant, but I would note that that is the area that was indicated on the applicant's original application.
Council, if I may interject, if it's an appropriate time for that. Thank you. I'm wondering if it's not possible to get this lot down to 1 acre and contain the septic and the well, is it the case then that this severance will not be permitted to go through?
Dan, can you comment on whether it could, how that might happen, or do you want me to jump in?
Yes, so through the chair, to council, to everyone involved. So as a condition of consent, if the recommendation is adopted to limit the size to 1 acre, the applicant would then have options to look at where that acre could go on the property and then map out where a septic system could go. I understand that it may not be possible to maintain the existing septic system that's on the site, and it may need to be replaced and placed elsewhere on the property, but that's something that has to be done through a detailed engineering analysis. With that said, if a detailed engineering analysis did come back and say that they cannot in any way meet that acre by placement of a septic system on the property, they could then apply to amend a condition of consent or appeal a condition of consent saying the condition is unreasonable and we need additional lands to be able to accommodate that septic area. So, but that is a technical justification that would have to be provided for staff to review after the fact.
Does anyone on council want to ask any clarification on that explanation? No. Okay. So I just repeat, this is not the first time that we've asked people to move septics, barns, electrical wells, and all the other parts to conform. This is not anything new to our municipality, to the applicant's lawyer who's representing them. This is not the first time that we've asked people to limit the property size to something close to 1 acre. I know our plan isn't officially amended, but that is consistent with our previous plan. And I think everyone here is pretty strongly anchored in that view. So oh yeah, did you want to comment, Councillor Case?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to add one little comment to exactly what you're saying. We're saying 1 acre, and this is 1.99. It's like double it's not a little bit.
We've also had the discussion about your property will never get a severance, right? Because of the way the configuration. So my driveway's 700 meters. I'm one of those. I'll never get a severance. I'll waste the whole acre on the driveway getting to the house. So, but that's an aside. So, okay, we have a motion before us And I'll read it and we'll look for a mover and a seconder and we can call a vote on that. So this is number 10.2. The motion is that consent application B12 2023 filed by Robson Brothers Partnership in order to sever residence surplus to a farm operation as a result of consolidation from a lot municipally known as 12626 Silderton Road be granted subject to the following conditions, and that the consent B12 be subject to the 16 conditions that are noted in the report, and further that the reasons for granting consent application B12 2023 include: it is consistent with the provincial policy statement. The proposal conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Center official plan. And subject to the conditions, the proposal would comply with the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Arts and Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to the next one, which is 12538 8 Mile Road. And Dan, that is your file again, please.
So through the chair to council, consent application B13 2023, 12583 8 Mile Road. So the purpose and effect of this consent application is to sever residence surplus to a farm operation as a result of the consolidation. The severed lands are proposed by the applicant to have a flag shape appearance due to the current setback of the dwelling from the existing road allowance. Therefore, it's proposed to have a frontage of approximately 13 meters on 8 Mile Road and an area of 1.63 acres. The balance of the farmland would maintain an overall area of approximately 98.37 acres. The subject property is located on the north side of 8 Mile Road, east of Vanek. It currently contains an existing dwelling as well as various farm structures and barns. The balance of the lands is then included as crop production. The subject property is designated agricultural area in both the county official plan as well as the local official plan. And it's zoned agricultural A1 in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. So upon review of this application, I am satisfied that the subject property is considered a surplus dwelling as a result of a farm consolidation. So as proposed, the size of the severed lot does not accommodate the existing well. Therefore, a condition of consent has been added to require the owner to drill a new well or for it to be, to be located within the fully within the boundaries of the proposed severed lands. I do note that there are a number of existing agricultural structures which are situated on this property, which would be the retained lands. The structures would be considered appropriate so long as they are used only for agricultural storage related to equipment for the retained farmland. As such, as a condition, they are required to be altered in such a way so that they are no longer considered suitable for housing livestock if they are capable at this point in time. This would ensure compliance as well with MDS. Additionally, each property is required to establish its own access and municipal address, and any existing access between the two parcels would be required to be removed. I am satisfied that the criteria of the severance of a surplus farm residence as proposed have been met or can be appropriately addressed through conditions of consent. So given the above, I am recommending that the subject application be approved subject to the conditions that are listed in the planning report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report, Dan. And I will look to the applicant's representative to comment if there is anything.
Good evening again, Council. I just have one comment about the well. In discussing with the applicants over the last day or so, we were discussing that it doesn't really make sense to exclude the well from the lot as proposed in the sketch provided to Council. And if I may, I'll share my screen and show a new proposal that would include the well if Council is willing to entertain that. In our original sketch, this corner, if you can see my mouse there was a little bit of agricultural land that was going to be taken out of production. Instead of taking that land out of production to have a square lot, we could change the lot lines to accommodate that well that is that blue dot there. So if council is willing to entertain that, we are willing to amend our application to do that.
Okay, thank you for that information. I will look now to council. Questions? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
If we're reconfiguring this lot, then we have no idea the size of the lot would be, I'm assuming. So if they want to reconfigure this lot, I would like to refer this back to the planner. Let them reconfigure it and do what they want to do, but try to bring it back to within the acre. Thank you.
If I may, the new lot as proposed in this drawing is approximately 1.55 acres. So it's slightly less than the original proposal.
Is there anyone else on council that wants to comment? Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think this is a Dan question about procedure now, I would believe. Sorry.
Actually, we can decide to defer this because there are changes and we want to see a complete application come forward. So we can refer it back to staff. Staff can work with the proponent, and then it can come back to us and we can ask our questions and make a decision. Is that what you wanted to know? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Dan, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so through the chair to members of council. So what I would say is recent changes to the Planning Act through Bill 108, applicants do have the ability to amend an application up until the time of a decision. So it's fully within their right to amend an application at a meeting. It's also within council's right to refer an application back to staff for further review. The only thing I would indicate is the decision, or sorry, the recommendation that is included in the planning report is just with respect to a maximum size of the lot. So we do have situations where, before council, a certain individual applied for a certain size, and then afterwards, based on the conditions, they need to reconfigure things slightly. Administration does retain the ability to have those discussions with the individual as long as it's within or under that maximum size that we placed on the lots. It's just something that generally does happen as part of our review of these applications through the condition clearance side of the equation. However, if there's a substantial difference that council thinks should be further reviewed through staff, then certainly refer it back to us and we can look at that. I would indicate that, there's been a lot of talk about the size of lots tonight. So if council is unwilling to even consider that size based on what it is, there's no physical characteristic that can change in this lot. There's a large portion of it is going to just be to accommodate the access from the road. So there's no way that this lot can be less than an acre or an acre. So my only point to council is if you're not willing to consider that moving forward, I'm not sure how much benefit we're doing to refer it back to staff.
Okay, council, you've heard from Dan. What is your wish? Councillor Burrs, and then I'll listen, Deputy Mayor Brennan.
Okay, so this is what Dan is saying is, due to the laneway taking up so much of the allowance, I don't think this can get down to an acre. If we just eyeball it at the sky level and look down, I don't know how you get it down to 1 acre. And does the planner for the Robsons know what that new configuration is in space? What is it? She's still there. Is it Courtney?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
So this new configuration, what size is that?
1.55 acres.
So that's 1.5 acres. So looking at this, honestly, I don't think you can get it down to 1 acre or even a smidge above it. But that's just my comment.
Yeah, Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. Dan, on the north side of the house, there seems to be quite a width there that could be perhaps shortened up. And if they have to drill a new well, then they'll have to drill a new well. But the only other consideration is if they can't do that, then as the mayor earlier referenced, there maybe are some houses that aren't severable. So maybe that's the next option. If they can't get down to an acre, maybe this house just can't be severed. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I can see the point about the well, because sometimes moving a well 10 feet doesn't find you any water. So I can understand the reconfiguration. And personally, I've never liked flag-shaped lots, but we've had them in the past, so I'm okay with this application.
Sorry, go ahead, Dan. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so through the chair for council's consideration. So, generally speaking, we want to see the well on the severed property. It's just best practice. If size is a concern in this case, the option would be to enter into an easement agreement to allow them to have access to a well on the neighboring parcel. That is an option that is still available. They could shrink that northern property line down as far as they could go. I don't know what that's going to result in terms of size, but that is something that we could consider to maintain as much of that remnant farm parcel as possible. But again, I'm not sure what you're really gaining in that, because that land won't be used to be farmed. It's just going to remain land as grassed area essentially, right? So I'm not sure how much you're really gaining in that by doing so.
So, okay, Dan, if the well's included there, then, I mean, technically we can put the property lines within X feet of the septic and make it a little narrower, a little taller, put the well in there. We can say the excess over the acre is the driveway, whatever that area is, or, to get it closer to that number. And then that would be the best we can do in this situation. Or option B is we decide that this is not a severable property, and then we just go ahead. Okay, have I got it?
Yeah, so through the chair, in these situations, what I would say is it's always best to refer back to staff. So at least we can have additional conversations with the applicant if council is willing to consider the option to go above that 1 acre. If council is unwilling to make that discretion, then I'm not sure how much a conversation back would be worth it.
Again, historically, we had a flag-shaped lot near Elginfield. Remember that one? Yeah. So me personally, I'll just weigh in. I'm open to considering a flag-shaped lot where we give some leniency. I would prefer the staff goes back and says the minimum lot that we need to make that septic work. I mean, that back line has to go to the well. How do we shrink it this way? It doesn't have to. I mean, just because the lot line's like that right now. I mean, we've had people that cut down trees and farm right up to the edge of the new property line. Not my problem. That's up to the producer to decide what they want to do. We just have to focus on that piece of land. So I'm happy to say, let's take it back to our planner, converse with the applicant and understand what will fly and what won't fly. And then there's no movement there or whatever. It's up to council then to make a call, and we'll hear back from you. Is that, I see nods. So could I have a motion then to defer this back to staff? Councillor Arts, Councillor Shipley, all in favor of deferring? Opposed? Okay, thank you. And we can now move on to the next one. Oh, that is the last one. Nope, here we go. Wrong pile. Okay, number 10.5, which is an application for zoning. Oh, I skipped it. Oh, got it. Oh, here it is. Yep. Okay, this is got it. Erie Avenue in Kamoka, B14, 2023. And again, it's your file, Dan.
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. So item 10.4 on the agenda tonight is a consent application to sever. It's B14, 2023 on 120 Erie Ave. So the purpose and effect of the application is to sever a lot from an existing single detached dwelling. The application seeks to sever a lot with a frontage of approximately 13.7 meters on Erie Ave and an area of 753.5 square meters. The retained residential lot would have a frontage of approximately 22 meters on Erie Ave and an area of approximately 1,256 square meters. The effect would be to create one new residential lot for the purpose of establishing a new dwelling unit while also maintaining the existing dwelling on a separate lot. The subject property is approximately 1.5 acres in area, and it's an existing residential lot which is situated on the south side of Erie Ave, east of Delaware Street South in Kamoka. The lot contains a single detached dwelling with an attached garage on the west side and associated accessory buildings in the format of an existing shed. The dwelling is serviced with municipal piped water as well as municipal sanitary sewage. Surrounding land uses are primarily residential in nature in the format of single detached dwellings. The subject lands are a designated settlement area according to the county official plan, and they are designated residential in Middlesex Center's official plan. The subject lands are zoned urban residential first density, exception 3 in the zoning bylaw. So the provincial policy statement, county official plan, as well as Middlesex Center's official plan all support residential intensification within existing settlement boundaries. Generally, it creates a more efficient format of development and limits the requirement to expand settlement boundaries into agricultural areas. It also helps deal with servicing hierarchies and less costly to service than new development outside of our existing settlement areas. So generally, this is the preferred format of development is infill and intensification. In this particular instance, the proposed size of the lot does not meet the minimum size requirements for a residential lot in the UR13 zone. It is, though, however, important to note that this zone was established during a time which servicing did not exist in Kamoka, thereby requiring large lots to accommodate wells as well as private septic systems. The zone is outdated from today's development standard, as well as the province's goals and targets for intensification. Given the undersized nature of the resultant severance, a minor variance would be required. However, the size of the lot as proposed is consistent with development patterns experienced within the context of Kamoka, as well as the broader context of the Kamoka-Kilworth secondary plan area. The applicant would be required to remove the existing attached garage as well as the existing driveway. And they are proposing to reconfigure the driveway to the east of the existing dwelling and potentially add an attached garage on that side of the home. So in discussion with the applicant, they have indicated that aside from the removal of the garage, the existing dwelling is in very good shape. As such, they do not wish to tear it down to create two equal-sized building lots, as I have heard in a number of letters that we have received. I would note that upon circulation of the application, I did not have any objections from any internal or external agencies. And at the time of writing the report for council, I did not receive any notices from the public. However, subsequently, the municipality has received 7 letters from the general public, which generally indicate that they are opposed to the proposed severance based on it not meeting the existing character of the area being smaller homes on large lots within Kamoka. And I believe those would have been disseminated to council in advance of the meeting today. So in review of the application, I am satisfied that the proposal does meet the intent of the PPS as well as the county OP and local OP. As such, I am recommending approval of consent application B14 2023, subject to the conditions that are outlined in the planning report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report, Dan. There is no applicant that is present to speak, and we don't have any members of the public registered, and no one has jumped on line to comment virtually. So it is up to council now to ask questions. Go ahead, Councillor Cates.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure to Dan, to all of you. I know that we're supposed to be about infill and intensification, et cetera, but I think this really crosses a line. I mean, it's 120 foot wide lot, and we're going to squeeze a little 45-foot wide lot in there after they rip down the garage. And then how many more minor variances are they going to come back for because they need reduced side yard setbacks on each side in order to squeeze their house in? By the time you get some side yards in there, it's going to be a little narrow, skinny house. To the east, I guess, if they're moving the driveway over there, it's a bit of a gully down the ditch and remove a bunch of trees. And I just think that it's really messy and it's really squeezed in there. To rip the garage off and then, yeah, it's just, I think I agree with what other people wrote. If you want to have two lots, then you should remove your house and properly split it in half is I guess the only option if you want to have a severance here. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Oh, yes, go ahead, Councillor Arts.
Through your Madam Mayor to Dan. This was approved, they're gonna come, what are the distances from the house to the to lot sizes? The side yard? What's in the regulations? And I guess there's two questions to that then, isn't there? What's in the regulations, what we've been approving?
Yeah, so through the chair to Councilor Arts. So the existing zones, which is the UR13 zone, requires minimum lot areas of 930 square meters, a minimum lot frontage of 24 meters, a minimum front yard setback of 8 meters, and interior side yard setbacks of 3 meters on either side. So it's likely that the individual developing the lot in the future would apply for variances to reduce to our typical development standards, which would be 1.2 meters on either side of the building, which gives a fairly substantial building pocket of 35 feet, sorry.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, well, it's up to council. Then we have a motion before us. The consent applications B14, 2023, filed by Sam Almadani and Cynthia DeWitt in order to sever one residential lot from a 2009 square meter residential property, in order to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling on the severed lot, having a frontage of approximately 13.73 meters on Erie Avenue and an area of approximately 753.5 square meters, and the retained having a frontage of approximately 22 meters on Erie Avenue and an area of approximately 1,256 square meters from property municipally known as 120 Erie Avenue be granted, and that the consent B14, 2023 be subject to the 17 conditions that are noted in the staff report, and further that the reasons for granting consent application B14, 2023 include: it is consistent with the provincial policy statement. The proposal conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre official plan. Subject to conditions, the proposal complies with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw. And that's it. I thought there was more. Okay, so subject to all those conditions, we have a motion here. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Arts. And I'll call the vote then. All in favor of the applicant, the report as presented? And against? And that motion is denied. Okay, now that's eerie. We have now got to go to 10.5. And Dan, this is your file for Sharon and Mark LaPointe, which is 3611 Woodhall Road. Yes.
Through the chair to council, I believe this file is Marion's.
The floor is yours, Marion.
Sorry, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I was reconnecting when you may have mentioned that. So I'll just quickly share my screen. So the purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to council regarding a zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands known as 3611 Woodhull Road. This application is a result of a condition of consent for a lot addition that required the severed parcel, which is highlighted in yellow, to be rezoned to maintain consistency with the receiving parcel to the south. The subject property is located on the west side of Woodhull Road and north of Longwoods Road. Surrounding land uses include large rural and residential lots, a golf course, employment lands, as well as agricultural areas in the immediate area. So in February of 2022, council had granted conditional approval to sever a 1.6 acre parcel to be merged with the abutting lot within a condition to be rezoned from agricultural to agricultural exception 11. This agricultural exception 11 zone continues to permit all agricultural uses and has the same provisions as the general agricultural zone, except that it limits the lot coverage of dwellings and accessory buildings to 10% instead of the 20%. So this application was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff. At the time of writing the staff report and leading up to the public meeting, staff did not receive any comments from the public. Additionally, staff did not receive any comments from municipal staff or agencies. So I reviewed the applicable policies, and generally this rezoning application is consistent with agricultural policies in the PPS County Official Plan and Middlesex Center Official Plan, as it does not remove any land from agricultural production nor negatively impact agricultural production. As such, staff determined that the zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the County and Middlesex Center Official Plan, and I recommend that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for your report, Marion. I will now look, are there any members of the public that? Nope, none. And so there's no one here. I'll look to members of council then. Questions, comments? I don't see any hands, so we do have a motion before us that the zoning bylaw amendment application file ZBA 03-2023 filed by Syed Shahabi on behalf of Sharon and Mark LaPointe to rezone lands from agricultural A1 to agricultural exception 11, that is A1-11 for lands known as 3611 Woodhall Road, be approved. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Shipley, Councillor Heffernan, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, that's it for public meetings. So we need a motion that public meetings adjourn at 7:56 p.m. and council resume the regular meeting. A mover, please. Deputy Mayor? Yep. And just, Councillor Arts, all in favor? Okay, and I've been asked for a 5-minute recess, so if we could just take a quick break, come back. Thank you. Okay, I've got the head nod and we're back online. So the next item up for consideration is the correspondence. We have 3 items listed tonight. Is there anything there that anyone wants to comment on? Go ahead, Councillor Heffernan.
To the mayor, item number 3, and I'm wondering, Rob, can you respond to this about the streamlining of approvals under the Aggregate Resources Act? So basically, the owners of these can bypass the ministry. Do they still require municipal approval? These are existing, I think, and they're taking them out of commission or whatever. I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, so through Madam Mayor to Councillor Heffernan, I think this was the same notice that we had discussed previously. There have been a couple of questions on, and so it's really minor amendments to aggregate site plans. So right now, if you want to make some of these minor amendments, it goes through an approval process to the MNRF, very lengthy. And I think I mentioned these are some of the, we've done some minor things on our end too that we would appreciate having this type of ability to make the amendments. It doesn't require municipal approval except for road entrances. So that's the one thing. If they want to change an entrance location, they still have to come and get a municipal or county approval for that. But these other types of things are just ones that are just more or less a quick amendment with really minor impacts. So.
If I could just, I think this amendment also included the storage of other kinds of aggregate residue, rubble, and so forth. There was a accommodation of certain kinds of product like they could keep at the gravel pit site.
Yeah, so that would be like recycled asphalt or recycled concrete. Yeah, that type of thing.
I think it's like Councillor Cates, you had a question? Oh no, Burrs. That's sorry.
Okay, just on item 13.1, that's just received for information. We don't have to support it or anything. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, yeah, July 1st is when the whole process of producer responsibility starts. So, yeah. Oh. No, not for us. No, the first communities on the list. We're in phase 2. We'll be next year. Yeah, not us. Okay, if there's nothing there, then yeah, just making sure. We have a motion that correspondence items 13.1 through 3.3, that is, listed on the agenda tonight are received as information. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates, going once. Councillor Burrs, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And I'll look to the Deputy Mayor now for a County Council update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We found out yesterday that each of the lower tier municipalities is going to get $711.38 from a fund from the county to support children in sports and recreation. That's what I said. No. That's our share of 8 municipalities all get that much. So it was only $5,000 or $6,000. Yeah. The Wardens Caucus, Western Ontario Caucus, it's usually our warden serves on that caucus, and it's a 1-year appointment, so it rotates really quickly. So we're looking at appointing someone to that warden, Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, for a 2-year term. So that's being looked at, and someone will probably get appointed to a 2-year term coming up shortly. We renewed our insurance with Intact at $1.24 million, which is about a 10% increase over the last year. Middlesex, London, Ontario Health Team primary case recruitment people are looking to try to get 50 more doctors in the London Middlesex area at about 1,300 patients per doctor. Currently, there's about 65,000 people in the London Middlesex area that do not have a family doctor, a primary care doctor. Is that 65,000? I thought, oh yeah, 6,500. Sorry, yeah. And 27% of the patients that do have a doctor are with a doctor that is over 60 years of age. So a lot of doctors are aging and a lot of people will be without. So this primary health team is looking for $20,000 per year for the next 3 years to work on recruiting these doctors. In Middlesex County, the industrial tax base by Middlesex County is way below the provincial average. We're at about 2.68 in the county. The average is 4.62%. The amount of assessment required to bring us up to the Ontario average would be $131,476,000 base to get us back into the average for the province, just the average. So we've got a ways to go there. The Warden's Golf Tournament is tomorrow. So everybody that's going, supper is at 4 o'clock. So be aware of that also. I think it was going to be 4:30, but now it's 4 o'clock. So be aware of that. There's a bunch of agreements that the county has have been renewed, and the homeless prevention programming update. There's more funding coming of $873,000. So that's in the works also, and that's the bulk of it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I was just sitting here thinking that the $700 that's coming back to us, $5,000 was given to Western University students to do that event and help the kids figure out, yeah, they didn't need it. So that was divided amongst, it's just being spread right back to the communities. So yes, as opposed to sending it back to, yeah. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it was free money. Okay, if there's nothing else there or questions for the deputy, then we have bylaws. The motion before us is that bylaws 2023, number 69 through 2023, number 77 listed on the agenda for June 21, 23 be approved. Would I have a mover, please, and a seconder? No.
What do we think it is?
Well, the one that we denied. There isn't.
There's no
No.
bylaws for
Consent. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. Good question. Okay, so again, a mover, please. Councillor Shipley, thank you. And Deputy, Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. And we need to adjourn the meeting, and the motion is that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the June 21st, 2023 Council meeting at 8:11 p.m. Councillor Arts, thank you. And Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much.